Today, Bryce Krawczyk is one of the strongest and most decorated powerlifters out there. But there was a point in Bryce's career where he wasn't sure how to take things to the next level. There was something holding him back that if he didn't fix, would really limit his lifting career. Since I coached Bryce's nutrition from 2017 to 2019, in today's episode, we're gonna unpack this and all of the strategies we used, giving you valuable insider nutrition coaching info that you can use on your own clients and in your own nutrition coaching business.
What's up, guys? We're here with Dr. Mark Morris, the handsome and talented guy who's been taking care of my nutrition over the last little while.
Here's what most nutrition coaches get completely wrong when working with top-level athletes like Bryce. They treat them dramatically different than everyone else, when in reality, they benefit from coaching in the same way everyone does, namely nutrition tracking. Like it or not, body composition has a big influence on the success of an athlete, especially strength athletes. And the best way to influence body composition is to control for the big picture nutritional components that actually influence this process, like calories and macronutrients. But then this is where most nutrition coaches go wrong. And it has to do with number 2, accountability. You may think that since someone is so advanced in their athletic development that they're super special. But the thing that elite athletes need more than anything else that's shared with most clients is accountability. Having someone to check in with, ensuring that they're sticking to the things that they need to do makes a world of a difference. If anything, this is why everyone would benefit from having a coach, especially athletes. But what makes them different and sometimes a bit more challenging is the need for a long-term plan. Without a long-term plan, you really limit an athlete's long-term development, mainly because you need to be specific and focused to get to the next level and reach the highest level of your sport. For strength athletes like Bryce, this means periodizing your nutrition into specific phases or chunks with a specific focus. Over the 2-year period working with Bryce, we had taken him all over different weight classes, optimizing his body composition in his original weight class, and then pushing the leanness, and finally filling in the weight class where he would be the most competitive. Here's what Bryce had to say about some of the big things that changed in his nutrition when we started working together.
So I think some of the big things for me were like the increased accountability. Like I think being accountable to myself worked for a while until it didn't anymore. And then having to kind of like check in and knowing that there would be somebody else that would be like a little bit extra bummed if I messed up or whatever.
Yep.
Yeah. So I think for me, that was one of the biggest things. And then kind of having an idea of what to expect for, like when I did things myself, I didn't really have like a long-term plan to be like, okay, we're going to bulk here, we're going to cut there, we're going to do this, blah, 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 and this will line up with competition. And that, like, I just tried to make weight a couple times and then pretty much bulked for like 8 years. So
exactly. As a nutrition coach, you need to set up a system to get clients results, but then realize they benefit from the same accountability and guidance as everyone else. What is important though from a performance standpoint is having a long-term plan that falls in line with their competition schedule and sets them up to perform their best. Today I'm going to show you how Bryce mastered his nutrition and the strategies, planning, and mindset that's taking his lifting and his performance to the next level. If you're curious about working with high-level athletes like Bryce and what it's like to manage things like long-term nutrition planning, short-term weight manipulation, behavior and psychology, and finally weight class selection, buckle up because today I'm going to take you through it all, detailing the 3 main phases Bryce and I worked through together. Here's how Bryce's nutrition habits looked before we started working together. His protein intake was on the low end of the optimal range with big swings from day to day. He had very inconsistent food intake on a day-to-day basis. And his overall energy intake was around maintenance, but it didn't have a really periodized focus. So like many strength athletes or people involved in lifting weights, Bryce knew what to do, but he really lacked adherence and direction. As you can see, although Bryce is an elite athlete, many of the things that he struggled with are similar to a lot of clients. Once I got a better idea of how things looked, I made an assessment. I set up a plan for him to track his calories and macronutrients to specific targets, keeping in mind the weight class he was in. Then through the years, we started to focus on different phases, making sure his nutrition reflected his goals with the overall aim of making him the most competitive, strongest powerlifter possible. Let's go through these phases with phase 1, optimizing the weight class. In 2017, we started the process of optimizing Bryce's body weight and body composition in the 105 kilo weight class. The first meet we prepared for was the 2017 CPU Nationals in Quebec. At that point, Bryce was getting into equipped lifting, which meant he wanted to do the equipped contest and the raw contest on back-to-back days, which as a coach is super hard to plan for, but also fun. So here's what the focus was in this time frame. The goal with most powerlifting clients is to fill in the weight class and to be slightly above, with the intent of making the athlete bigger than the rest of the competition. With all else being equal, the most muscular athlete typically wins, so this is a viable strategy in weight class sports. But with back-to-back weigh-ins, with one of the contests being equipped, meaning he was wearing supportive gear, I decided to get him safely within the weight class so he could eat and drink that day. And just as important, considering he was lifting equipped, we wanted him to be within the weight class so his gear would fit similarly on game day as it did in training. So the plan was for the 5 weeks leading into the contest to take him from 106 kilos down to 103 the week of the contest. And the outcome was, even with the weight loss, Bryce performed well in training and even felt better, probably due to the increases in protein and food quality and some consistency. We actually got a bit ahead of this process and we were able to ramp up his carbohydrates leading into the meet. Bryce was able to make weight both times and win both competitions, hitting a personal record total in the equipped meet. And moving forward, this was Bryce's focus for the entire year. Bryce was able to maintain his weight between 105 to 109 kilos, which is 0 to 2.5% above his weight class, for a full 18 months leading up to some pretty premier IPF events. IPF Equip Worlds in 2017, CPU Nationals in 2018, and in 2018 Raw Worlds, all in the 105 kilo class. His energy intake ranged between 3,300 to 3,600 calories for the most part, but one of the biggest changes was his dedication to his protein intake throughout this process. Additionally, there were 2 local meets and the Arnold Classic Invitational during this time, while focusing on performance without having to do any short-term changes to his weight. The decision to make a weight class should really depend on your goals for the event, while being realistic about what's going on in your life and your training. Now at this point, we have been pushing Bryce's food levels for a while, and Bryce wanted to change of pace, and I knew since the ultimate goal was to gain some more muscle, it wasn't a bad idea to get him leaner for a short period of time. So we switched gears heading into phase 2, where we push the leanness. For an athlete, intention is always important. Sometimes this can mean maintaining your weight, but it can also mean changing the focus into fat loss or muscle gain, which when done properly really improves your success as a strength athlete. After 2018 Classic Worlds, Bryce wanted to change, so after a bunch of beers, we decided to change his focus into fat loss. Actually, the original plan was to move myself, Connor Lutz, and Bryce into the same housing training complex called the Bro Dome, where we document all of us getting as shredded as possible. After the night out where this was discussed, no one was really on board, so we just moved forward with the normal plan. The plan was to push down to 100 kilos from 108 or 109 in a 3 to 4 month period. Based on previous phases, I knew a 10% calorie drop would get everything moving in the right direction. The outcome was Bryce transitioned to eating lower levels of food, focused on food volume, and hitting his protein targets. His energy intake got as low as 2,700 kcals per day, as his weight got closer to 102 kilos, but past that point, we were actually able to ramp his food up. At this point, he got more active, and his weight actually came down as low as 100 kilos while eating 3,500 calories per day. What we see here is strength athletes benefit from phases. Most of their time should be spent above maintenance, where they can eat more food and perform well and maybe gain some muscle. But brief periods of cutting, in this case 10 to 14 weeks, can break up the monotony and resensitize their hormones. But then the focus switched back to competition and finding the place where Bryce would be most competitive, which meant phase 3, joining the big boys. After the cut, Bryce's focus changed to filling in the 105 kilo weight class, and he lifted there at the 2019 CPU Nationals. At a certain point, the best way for a strength athlete to improve is to fill in a heavier weight class. So the decision was made to move up to the 120 kilo weight class. This was one part necessity because at a certain level, not being able to eat more food would hinder the ability to get stronger and hit some lifelong milestones. But additionally, at the international level, the competition in the 120 kilo class was more favorable. So we decided to take the plunge and join the big boys a weight class up. Okay, here's the deal about gaining weight. In most cases, quality weight, i.e. muscle, doesn't go on as fast as less favorable weight, i.e. fat mass, comes off. So the plan was we wanted to make a slow climb up to around 115 or 116 kilos, where Bryce was near the top of the class, but given his amazing deadlifting ability, he could always tie his competition but end up winning because he'd be the lighter lifter. But in my experience, powerlifters just don't hang out in the middle of the weight class. For whatever reason, once you go up, your 109 kilos turns into 114 or 115 almost overnight. Part of this is intended, you want to gain weight, but the other part is sort of subconscious, probably because you're more relaxed around food and tracking. Now, gaining weight isn't as fun or as easy as it sounds. Since we were a bit more relaxed around tracking, maybe taking 2 days off per week, we used a few other strategies to keep Bryce moving in the right direction. The first one to keep him consistent was setting a basement level of calories. And although we always try to stay within ranges, sometimes the basement works much better because there's something to shoot for. Don't go under this, you have to make it up to here, and that's the basement level of calories. Thus, the basement was set at 4,000 calories, and Bryce knew exactly what he needed to do to get there each day. To me, the goal of consistency isn't being perfect each day, but stringing together a bunch of good days. We started calling this no days under 4K, and it worked really well for Bryce. On the off days, his only goal was not coming back any lighter, and this set the intent for his eating. Lastly, to eat 4,000 calories each and every day, you need to work in some higher calorie, less healthy food like candy and higher fat meat. This left Bryce feeling sluggish and kind of unwell. So we also needed to set some structure around his food choices so that we could keep his overall health and well-being in mind. It looked like this. Include 1 serving of fruit and or vegetable every time you eat. Include 1 anti-inflammatory fat source every time you eat, with the exception being the pre-workout meal just to emphasize good digestion. This was a big game changer in the way that Bryce viewed his nutrition. The outcome of this approach and strategy was that Bryce slowly filled in the 120 kilo class on his way to some very big lifts. Here's the deal, athletes benefit from phases. In this phase, we made the decision for Bryce to fill in a new weight class, and it paid off for him as he continued to get stronger and lift well in the international scene. But at a certain level, gaining weight isn't any fun either. It's a lot of work, so we needed to set some structure around minimum food intake and making healthy choices to strike a balance between gaining weight and improving his overall health. And those were the 3 main phases. Working with anyone, let alone a high caliber athlete like Bryce, for years as a nutrition coach is a privilege. You get to put some long-term planning into action and flex those behavior change muscles to keep things moving. Some of the biggest lessons from my time with Bryce were, high-level athletes are just like anyone else. They thrive off accountability and guidance, but there's always a time and a place as well. There's a time to be lenient with less structure, and a time to dial it all in and push forward. But the other lesson was strength athletes must focus on nutrition. But it isn't always just for the physical benefits, like boosting performance and recovery. One of the biggest off-paper benefits is focus and intention. Focusing on nutrition is important, but leaving no stone unturned, that builds certainty and confidence. And that's how you get results for top-level nutrition coaching clients. Now, as great as all those tips are, if you're really serious about starting a nutrition coaching business, the next thing I'll have you do is check out this video I've linked up right here. Now that you know how to work with high-level clients, here's how to keep them organized. So make sure to check it out now, and I'll see you in the next video.